good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're viewing from. This is Laura Thompson, your friendly, fabulous, feisty, fierce, and phenomenal CEO and creator of TAN TV, the African American Network, where we have a local feel with a global reach, and you're tuned into the coffee break. And guess who I ran into? I was just minding my own business, sipping on my coffee, my favorite coffee, and I ran into Dr. T. How you doing, Dr. T?
Doing good, Laura. How are you doing? Thanks
I'm
for
doing.
having me here.
Oh, no problem. It's exciting to have you. Dr. T is currently on the beach right now.
Even if I'm not on the beach, I'd like to be there.
Right. And she's in New Jersey. So before we get started with our interview, I would like for you to give a little bit of biographical information about who you are, where you're from, what you do, why you do it, all those good things.
Sure. So I'm currently an infectious disease physician in Morristown, New Jersey. And I'm originally from India. Grew up there till in high school, I moved here to New Jersey. And then I became an EMT in high school or college. Really loved patient care and just pursued medicine because I was really passionate to help other patients. So that brings me to my journey here. And of course, I connected with some amazing women and wrote a chapter in the Warrior Women Project, which I'm super excited to share with everybody. So that's a little bit about me.
Wow. So let me tell you a little bit about why Dr. T is here. She is the part of an anthology, which she just mentioned, the Warrior Women Project. And it is an anthology. It's a collaboration between a bunch of women from different cultures and backgrounds that moved to the United States, and they are telling their stories about their experience. And so we're going to be doing a series of these interviews, and Dr. T is one of them. And I've been talking to Dr. T offline before we came on, and she's really, really cool. So you're going to really, really love her story. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. It's nice to hang out here.
Right, no problem. So how did you get involved with the book, with the Women Warrior Project?
That's actually a cool story. So I was just in this phase of my life where I just wanted to connect and network with people, especially females. I'm really passionate about empowering other females. So I was part of a group online where Dr. Lulu, who's the primary author of the book, and she's also a writer and a bestseller, was interviewing a couple of people about her podcast, which is called The Suicide Pages. And she wanted people to sign up for interviews to share their stories with anything associated with suicide, knowing family members going through it, losing people to it. And I had gone through a lot of depression and anxiety during my medical journey. And, I was also getting brave enough in my life to start sharing that. And I signed up, and here we are. She reached out to me after that podcast, and she said, "Hey, I'm putting together a book of immigrant women's stories, and I would really like for you to join me if you want to be part of this anthology." And I said, absolutely, because I've always wanted to write and I love writing. I definitely don't have enough time for it, but I want to make for it eventually. But I was like, hey, if it's a chapter, it was still tough to do it, but that's kind of how we got connected and how I got on this journey.
Wow, that's awesome. So the other thing, you said you are from India, and most of your younger days you spent in India. You were born there?
I was born there, yes, originally. I grew up there for 13 years. 2 of those years I lived in New Zealand.
Wow.
Side story, but that was in like 3rd or 4th grade, but most of my childhood was in India. Yeah.
Wow. So what was it like growing up in India?
It was fun. It was a lot of fun. Very different from America for sure, just from a cultural standpoint. I mean, I had most of my family there, so it was very comfortable. We did things together all the time. I miss all the festivals, like when you just celebrate everything together. The food is amazing.
Wow.
Food is amazing. And I don't know, it was a lot of fun. I had a great time in my childhood. I still talk to some of my friends from back in school, and we always think about how we just had a great time as a kid there. So it
Wow.
was fun.
Wow, that's great. When you left India, how did you feel about that?
I
Coming
hated
to
it.
the so what brought y'all to your family to the United States?
Well, I guess typical immigrant story. My dad wanted us to have a better opportunity than what he had and my mom had, and they just wanted us to get a really good education that can land us any opportunity that we would like. Obviously, as a 13-year-old girl who has made a tight knit of friends of like 7 or 8 friends with really close family, did not see that. So I hated it. I hated coming here. I would verbally go around in New Jersey high school telling people I hate America. And
Wow.
one of my friends, one of my close friends would be like, "You should not say hate that easily." And I'm like, "Actually, it's pretty easy to say hate." So,
So how did you start adapting to America, and how have you maintained your culture from your upbringing in India?
that's a very deep question. There's a lot of layers to that. Looking back, I can tell you that it took me like 8 or 9 years to even accept this as a home.
Wow.
I never really accepted it as a home. We would go to like temples to pray to the like to do services for like God and like request things, and my mom would say like do this and your wish will be granted, and every single wish I used it to go back to India.
Wow.
for like straight 5 years, I think. I was like, God, just take me back to India to my grandparents.
Wow.
So that was a mindset that I had.
That's understandable though, as
Yeah.
a teenager leaving all your friends that you grew up with. That's a tough transition for
Yeah.
anybody, but especially um, somebody that didn't really care about coming to America and changing your lifestyle and leaving your friends. It's a
Yeah,
tough.
no, I mean it was definitely tough. I think even getting used to my parents was difficult because I grew up with my grandparents. So when my parents wanted to be my parents, I was like, "Who are you guys?" Like now you
Wow.
wanna now you wanna make all my decisions. It's kind of weird. So that was a big adjustment. It was very difficult. I went through a lot of different changes and kind of held on to different people who also immigrated to try to make friends with those people, because people who were here or adjusted to it, I could not relate and they could not relate to me either.
Mhm.
So I was like, what's the point? And I would try to make friends, but even that was difficult. I was not really close to anybody. But thankfully I did make some very good friends, even if, like two of my best friends I still talk to. And then from there it went on, and I think college really opened up a lot more doors for me. And I also started becoming my own person. That really helped too. Like I started pursuing my interests in medicine. I started volunteering. I did a lot of nonprofit work. So when I started being myself and doing things that I enjoyed, that brought people into my life that were similar to me, which really helped being friends with them.
Wow. So, so in India, when coming from India, was English your native language, or did you have to learn another language? Did you have to learn
No,
English?
thankfully I went to a school that teaches English. So in India, people learn three different languages, sometimes four.
Mhm.
The first language is Hindi. The second language which is a national language. Hindi is a national language. The second one is like your native language of the area of the country that you're in. And then
Wow.
the third is English. And then sometimes there's, I think, even fancier schools that do another language. But I was definitely not part of a fancy school. And that I was very bad at my own language. I was actually better in English and the national language. So my mom would always
Wow. Mm.
yell at me like, how are you not good at the language you speak at home, but you're good at the other ones?
So you like them better, huh? So
Yeah.
you're, wow. So that's a very interesting, amazing story. You don't really get to hear kind of how people transition from one culture to another and how they adapted. So, do you still maintain some of your culture that you grew up with in India?
I do. I do like to celebrate things with my family. So when we do any like celebration of festivals and just things that are important to us, we still do. I think we adopted American holidays. Like we celebrate Christmas now, even though we're not Christian, which is fine. I just want gifts.
Right.
And
I know that's right. I know that's
I like giving gifts
right.
too. So
Oh, that's pretty
um,
cool.
I think the religious part of it, I think I transformed my journey into like more of a spiritual side of things.
Mhm.
I think Hinduism kind of gave me a base of understanding things of like higher power, but then I adopted like meditation and mindfulness into my life. So that part I think it's a little bit different. I'm kind of separated from my parents from that, but we do still celebrate things together, and do a lot of rituals together, and you know do family activities together still. Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So, so what do you do now? What is you're in medicine? So,
Hmm.
what's your daily routine?
So I'm an infectious diseases doctor who chose the field before COVID was here.
Wow.
I just want to be clear about that. I did not choose a pandemic, but
Mhm.
I just started. I'm a baby attending, so I just started in November, like my full-time position. So my routine's pretty. It varies when I get done, but I'll probably start around like 9 o'clock, and then I'll be done by around 6 or 7. But it's much more autonomous. We see patients throughout the day with infections of different
Mm.
kinds, um,
Wow.
from heart infections, lung infections, skin
Mm.
infections, brain. I love treating those because patients get better after. um, COVID, which we're seeing a little bit more now. So any infection of any part of the body, they call us because we're the consultants for the hospital.
Hmm.
Um, so we kind of guide the antibiotic and antiviral regimen for patients.
Wow. So what kind of experiences have you had since COVID had become a pandemic in the country? And they talked about India and how India was suffering. Um,
Yeah,
you
India,
know,
India, India took a big hit. I knew personally, like even my family who was affected by COVID, and even some friends that I know, people who have passed away. It's a little better now, I think, and things hopefully are looking better with more vaccinations. But COVID here was just as bad, I think, when it was peak.
mhm.
Obviously, India has a higher population; it's growing faster, and more people getting sicker at a higher rate. But it was just like that here when it first started.
Mm. Like in New
I was
York and Detroit.
Yeah, I was in New York when it started, and it was the epicenter of the pandemic. And
Hmm.
I wasn't even an attending at the time. I was just a trainee, just finishing up my fellowship, like just finishing up my infectious diseases degree. And they were just like, "You guys are good enough. Like you're basically considered graduated." And I'm like, "But we never
Wow.
learned COVID."
Nobody did, though, right?
Yeah, I was like, we never learned COVID and you just want us to practice on what? And we were like throwing all sorts of creative treatments on patients. Like I was like hoping zinc sulfate would work. I remember throwing like Kaletra, it was like some HIV medication. I was like,
Wow.
what are we doing?
Wow. So a lot of
It's crazy. It's crazy.
so you think that they with the vaccination and everything, there's been a breakthrough and it's headed in the right direction.
I think so. I mean, obviously, there's people who don't want to vaccinate or can't vaccinate that will continue to make it more resistant, unfortunately. And right now, I'm seeing cases of patients who haven't been vaccinated again in the hospital. But I'm hoping that at least now that we have a little bit better treatments, the severity won't be as bad.
Mhm.
Like they won't be crashing and they won't be intubated, but at least they'll go home in a couple of days versus before when it started, pretty much everyone was getting intubated and it was insane.
Wow.
Versus
Wow.
now it's like night and day. And I think it will continue to get better as long as we're ramping up the vaccinations.
Wow. So you are tuned into the coffee break on TAN TV, the African American Network, where we have a local feel with a global reach. And we're here with Dr. T, and she's on the beach, kind of in New Jersey. And so we're talking about, some of her experiences growing up in India and moving to the States. But now we want to talk about the book. We want to delve into the Warrior Women's Project and kind of tell us a little bit about maybe a little tidbit or a snippet about what you wrote about in that book and what people can expect.
Just a little tidbit, not everything though.
Right, just a little. You can't have everything, so
You
just
have to get the
you have
book.
to buy the book, right?
um, let's see. I dove in a lot more about my journey of moving here, how it was really to get adjusted properly. I dove into a lot more about my medical journey, just things that I battled, and just trying to empower other women because I know that there's things that we all go through, and including all the other authors. I mean, my story is just one of the many other fired up stories in there. Like I've read those books, I've read the stories, and I couldn't sleep. I was like,
Wow,
gosh.
wow, wow.
So I think that it's just really powerful for people who are looking for stories that women have been through. So I've kind of poured it all out there. Dr. Lulu, I mean, she's obviously our fearless leader and kind of guided us through when we were writing our scripts. And she's like, just be vulnerable, just be yourself, just throw the fire. Like we can't hold anything back. And that's what you have in my story too. Obviously my story is about my journey, but I think everyone's journeys in that book is just
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be life changing to just read it. But I think if anybody can connect to any part of the book, men, women, children, old, young, it doesn't matter. And I think that's the power of the book, I think.
Wow. So where can people get the book?
The people can get the book. So we have Barnes and Noble website has it. It's called The Warrior Women Project. Um, and Amazon obviously has it. If they have personal connections to me, I can get them a signed autograph book.
Wow.
Um, there's Amazon in different countries that has it. So India, Canada, Australia, the different
Wow.
websites have it. So we've gone pretty broad. We're one of the best sellers on
Sweet.
Barnes and Noble. So it's very accessible, very easy to find it.
Wow. And it's called the Warrior Women Project, right?
Yep.
Right. So look for Dr. T. Well, first buy the book and then look and then look for Dr. T's story. She has a phenomenal story. She was a teenager that moved to the United States not against her will, but she didn't really want to go. But look at her now. She's a infectious disease doctor, and she's doing very, very well for herself. And she's on the beach, so
On a weekday.
right. Yes, when she takes her break, she goes on the beach. So
you gotta de-stress. So
right, you got to do something, right? So uh, so we're almost coming to the end of our our session, but I wanted to take a station break right quick before we go, and then you can give us some final words
Yeah.
before we leave. So check it out.
The road to get here took dedication. No one saw the long bus rides, the double shifts, the late nights, but you pushed on because you had support for remote and on-campus learning. You had your own advisor from start to finish and additional assistance when you needed it. Now you're ready for anything. You have what it takes. You have the Alamo Colleges District.
So that's one of our community college districts here in San Antonio and Bexar County.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so we're trying to get people to register and go back to physically go back to campus. They can still do online stuff, but physically go back to campus for the first time since COVID. So that's pretty cool.
Cool.
So you're tuned into the Coffee Break on TAN TV, the African American Network, where we have a local feel with the global reach, and we're here with the phenomenal, and she's my friend. I really, really love her story. And I'm a little jealous because I'm still in the office and she's on the beach in New Jersey, but she moved from India to New Jersey when she was 13, and she has prospered. And I wanted to see if what final words you would like to leave with our viewers about the possibilities of success and all of the things that that you hope for, have come true and more. It does not yet appear what you'll be, but can you give us some final words on to women?
Sure. That's a lot of pressure for final. You built up a lot of pressure there for me.
No, you're good. You're good.
I think the first thing to remember is that you're not alone. There's always someone else out there going through similar things. If not the same exact situation, there's always someone there, and always reach out for help. And help will be there. But I know that I talk about this in the book a little bit, but I'll give you another sneak peek is my favorite quote is with every adversity lies a seed of an equal or greater opportunity. Which Napoleon Hill talks about. And I think my life resonates with that. Is I think sometimes when you're going through challenges, you're like, what the heck, why? And you overcome it, you push through it. And the key is to overcome it and push through it so that you can come out on the other side and realize why. And I think there's a lot of reasons why I went through a lot of different things and why I became the person I am today because of those adversities. And that's probably what I'll leave you with today.
Wow. So, get that, the book, The Warrior Women Project is the name of the book. Get the book and you might find your story in there, something that inspires you and something that motivates you to take it to the next level. So you have been tuned into the Coffee Break on TAN TV, the African American Network, where we have a local feel with a global reach. And we've been here with the wonderful Dr. T. And we're so proud of her, and congratulations on your portion of the Warrior Women Project.
Thank you, Laura.
All righty. Thank you. And we'll talk to you soon.